Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. My name is Javier Dorantes, and I am grateful to be serving you as your worship associate today and to welcome you fully in this space. We welcome people of all genders, sexualities, ages, races, ethnicities, histories, and bodies here. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit here. We welcome all you are bringing with you today and all your heart longs to set down. We welcome all of you. We extend a special welcome to each guest among us. Guests are warmly invited to attend the Inquirer session today immediately after the service in the parlor to learn more about Unitarian Universalism and our church in a smaller, casual gathering. We invite our guests to fill out a welcome card located in the pew rack in front of you and drop it in the offering plate later in the service. You can also pick up a welcome packet at the back of the sanctuary. Hearing assist devices and braille hymnals are also available at the rear of the sanctuary, and a fragrance-free area is located on the front right side of the sanctuary. If you are a visiting family, including children or youth, after the time for all ages, please join the children's recessional and head across the hall to the common room. There you will be greeted by someone who will orient you to religious education. Immediately following the service, everyone is invited for coffee and conversation in the common room. My name is Javier Dorantes, and you can come talk to me at the guest table there. As a way to engage at First Church, I invite everyone to explore the announcements insert for the numerous opportunities available here. In particular, let me draw your attention to the following. Our forum speaker this morning is Hunger Task Force Director of Advocacy, Maureen Fitzgerald, who will be speaking on Hunger Task Force, Free and Local. Please join us in Max Auto Hall on the second floor at 10:10 a.m. Spring Yoga Session with Morgan Engels begins this week on Monday evenings or Wednesday mornings. Register at the Religious Education table during coffee hour today or online at our church website. Both members and non-members are welcome. Are you interested in becoming a member of First Church? Our Spring Journey to Membership series begins Wednesday evening this week. Sign up at the Member Services table today. Please find details on these and more events in the announcements insert. Finally, please silence any electronic devices for the remainder of the service. Once again, I welcome you to First Church by inviting you to join me in the unison reading of our mission, which is printed in your order of service. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. At this time, I would like to ask Diana and John to please come up and help us light the chalice.
Yeah, John, you got here just in time. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you here today. These opening words are by Anonymous, and it's called All of You is Holy. Forget about enlightenment. Sit down wherever you are and listen to the wind that is singing in your veins. Feel the longing, the fear, the love in your bones. Open your heart to who you are right now, not who you'd like to be, not the saint you're striving to become, but the being right here before you, inside you, all of you is holy. You're already more and less than whatever you can know. Breathe out, look in, let go. Please rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing hymn 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. Well, Cammie Thomas is out sick today, unfortunately. But it happens to the best of us, doesn't it? How many of you have been sick sometime this winter, spring? Yep. So our story today is called Odd Velvet by Mary Whitcomb, and it goes like this. On the first day of school, Velvet's classmates brought their teacher cinnamon tea, lace handkerchiefs, and heart-shaped boxes of potpourri for a welcome gift. Velvet handed her teacher an egg carton filled with 7 rocks, her favorite red shoelaces, and half of a sparrow's egg. Velvet, my friends, was a little bit odd. At lunchtime, Velvet not only carried a used brown paper bag, but inside of it were things like carrots and a butter sandwich, and she ate them. At recess, a few of the girls noticed that Velvet was not wearing a new dress, even though it was the beginning of the school year. Where did she come from? They wondered out loud. All of this strangeness did not stop after the first day of school. In fact, it got worse. Velvet brought in a milkweed pod for show and tell. Luckily, 3 of the other girls brought in a talking doll, a wedding doll, and a crying doll to save the day. Velvet's nose was freckled. She had a pack of only 8 crayons, and her sweater once belonged to her older sister. How did they know that? Nothing was right about Odd Velvet. Although everyone was polite to her, no one was silly enough to pick Velvet for playtime or to walk home with her after school. On the day of the school field trip, the children were laughing and calling each other by their nicknames. Someone called out, "What's your nickname, Velvet?" It got quiet as Velvet looked around. "I don't have one," she said. But my father told me that on the day I was born, the sun was rising over the mountains, and outside it looked as though the world had been covered in a blanket of smooth, soft lavender velvet. Few of the boys let out a giggle, but mostly the bus fell silent. For a moment, everyone was thinking of how beautiful that morning must have been, the day that Velvet was born. The following week, a school drawing contest was announced. There was no question who the winner would be. Sarah Garvey had the best markers, the biggest paint set, and more colored pencils than anyone else in the class. When the day arrived to announce the winner, the children let Sarah sit right up front. No one was more surprised than she was when the teacher called out Velvet's name as the winner. Velvet had drawn an apple. "It's just a piece of fruit," Sarah protested. Everyone stared at Velvet's picture. "It looks so real, I would like to eat it," someone said. "It seems like you could pick it up," another child added. Sure enough, with just her 8 crayons, Velvet had drawn the most beautiful apple the children had ever seen. On the day Velvet handed out invitations to her birthday party, unfortunately, some whispering began. "I bet her house is old and dark," Sarah said. The thought of going to Velvet's house made everyone a little uneasy. Velvet lived in a tiny house at the end of a long road. There was no jungle gym or tetherball there, just a tall swing hanging from a big old tree. At the door, Velvet's mom and dad politely asked the children in. There were no birthday magicians or wizards, not even a clown. But they got to turn Velvet's room into a castle. The royal subjects painted each other's faces and put glitter in their hair. They jumped high off the bed into a blue blanket moat. Velvet's sister made each of them golden crowns with colored jewels. They took turns wearing Velvet's royal cloak, which used to be a bed cover. They played cards and shot marbles. Velvet even showed them how to draw the beautiful apples. On the last day of school, Velvet's classmates brought their teacher handfuls of flowers, cards they had made, and a nice, impressive-looking collection of rocks. Velvet was different, but maybe she wasn't so odd after all. Will you rise as you're able, and we'll sing our children's recessional, the first verse all the way through, and then children, youth, and teachers are invited to go to your classes while we continue to sing you on your way. 1031, may we be filled with loving kindness.
So
This meditation on broken hearts is by Thomas Rode. Let us enter into a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. Feel the earth beneath your feet as it supports you. Feel the love of this community as it surrounds and enfolds you. Feel your breath as it flows in and out of your body. Listen to your heartbeat. Listen to your heart. How is it with your heart? Does your heart feel whole or shielded, cocooned, closed to feeling? Or is it broken, fragile, brimming with pain? Has your heart been broken and healed so many times that it now lies open to the world, knowing that true growth comes not without pain, and that we may carry the hearts of others even when our own is too heavy for us to bear? None of us has an unblemished heart, not one. So let us give thanks for the broken places in our hearts, for it is only through such brokenness that we may truly touch each other, and only through touching one another that the world may be healed. Let us give thanks for the brokenness that we share. May we enter the silence.
There have been times when I've had the opportunity to sit at the table with people that I love, friends, family, and it has been at those times that I experience a sense of plenitude and gratitude for everything that is. No need for those to be special occasions, but just by being together and aware of the many blessings around me, make me feel whole, connected, complete, and fully present with and through the ones I love. There have been other times, however, when it's way more difficult for me to experience such a sense. Taking on the routine of the everyday life, everything from work to errands, tasks, emails, texts, etc., feels like I have to be attending many things at once. And all of those things seem to prevent me from not only fully connecting to what I'm doing at any given time, but to everything else that makes me who I am. Those distractions get even more accentuated when challenges and adversity arise. Not long ago, I went through a rough patch in my life. I lost my job, started facing some health issues, went through a painful breakup with my then girlfriend, and there were some pressing financial matters in the family that required my immediate attention, all at the same time. I felt overwhelmed. It was like the opposite of the "Oh, what a beautiful morning" song from the musical Oklahoma. The days were dark and nothing seemed to be going my way. I could not stop thinking about my downfall. I felt constantly distracted by the immediate recent past, regretting my decisions, feeling guilty, threatened by my situation, worried and filled with self-doubt. I would wake up in the middle of the night not able to find clear answers to the whirlwind going through my head. I thought that in order to feel complete, I needed to have a significant other, or that I must have a great job, or that I need to be fully healthy all the time. And I didn't have any of those things. One afternoon, I took a walk by the lake thinking about family, values, circumstances, challenges and blessings in my life in a deep internal reflection that sparked emotions and scrutiny in my heart. I sat on a bench, looked out at the horizon, and closed my eyes. I could feel the breeze in my face as I deeply inhaled when I realized that, in addition to the difficult situations that I was confronting, I also had an apartment where to go to afterwards. I had food, family, friends, my beloved and supportive congregation, and I thought, this is who I am. I realized that despite of not having everything going my way, I could experience an authentic sense of wholeness that allowed me to feel grateful and hopeful, while at the same time being more fully present. I later shared those thoughts and emotions with my parents, and then again with a couple of close friends. The open expression of mutual feelings between us and their loving understanding and empathy made me feel connected to them, to my past and to my present, including my difficult circumstances. I gained a different perspective of the uncertain path ahead for me, and I could appreciate the good things and even the hardship in my life that led me to where I was, making me feel a little more at ease. I realized that nothing about the external conditions beyond my control had changed, but what did change was my outlook about them and my disposition to deal with them. I was able to bring to my life a sense of wholeness and perspective that made me feel more grounded, I learned that, to me, wholeness means counting my blessings while mindfully trying to have the capacity to face, accept, and even welcome difficulty with as much strength, hope, dignity, and patience as possible. Trying not to despair and being fully present and grateful for everything that is. Acknowledging that life is not all joy and happiness, but also comes with hardship and adversity. Understanding that embracing my good and bad fortunes, the bliss as well as the gloom, and everything in between really makes me who I am.
How do we find a path to wholeness when so many different demands are dividing our attention? We are, most of us, living fragmented and distracted lives in the midst of a broken world, and yet we yearn for some kind of wholeness. We want to be healthy, genuine, undamaged, complete human beings. We want to be whole, and yet experiences of wholeness seem elusive amongst the flurry of demands surrounding us. Work, taking care of family, taking care of the household, figuring out how to make ends meet, volunteering, keeping up with the news, staying connected to friends, getting enough exercise, getting enough sleep, responding to every bell and whistle of social media, ignoring the prompting of that still small voice within that wants us to listen to who we really are. Wholeness. Against this, wholeness doesn't have a chance, does it? Or does it? Catholic monk Thomas Merton claimed, "There is in all things a hidden wholeness." Teacher Parker Palmer has devoted his life to discovering this wholeness in himself and helping others to discover their wholeness in community. His book, A Hidden Wholeness, The Journey Toward an Undivided Life, published in 2004, is a good guide to this lifelong process, should we want to embark upon the path. He wrote, "The divided life comes in many and varied forms. It is the life we lead when we refuse to invest ourselves in our work, when we make our living at jobs that violate our basic values, even when survival does not absolutely demand it. We remain in settings or relationships that continue to kill off our spirits bit by bit. We harbor secrets to achieve personal gain at the expense of others. We hide our beliefs from those who disagree with us to avoid conflict, challenge, or change. We conceal our true identities for fear of being criticized, shunned, or attacked. We project our inner darkness on others, making enemies of them and making the world a more dangerous place. These are examples of living the divided life. Palmer confessed, "I pay a steep price when I live a divided life, feeling fraudulent, anxious about being found out, and depressed by the fact that I am denying my own selfhood. The people around me pay a price as well, for now they walk on ground made unstable by my dividedness. How can I affirm another's identity when I deny my own? How can I trust another's integrity when I defy my own? A fault line runs down the middle of my life, divorcing my words and actions from the truth I hold within." I wonder if those words from Parker Palmer resonate with you. I wonder, given this fairly widespread reality of living a divided life, or at best a distracted life amidst the wider culture of fragmentation and competing demands, how do we find a path to wholeness? And how do we travel that path, alone and together? Let's begin with the assumption that we have all experienced some moments of feeling whole, however fleeting they may have been. To help us recall such moments, consider this question for self-reflection. Where were you first invited into a circle that helped you feel whole? This is the first of several reflective questions in the Soul Matters material for this month's theme of wholeness, which we use in our congregation's theme circles. It's notable that the question is phrased in terms of a circle. The question is not, when did you first experience wholeness, but When were you first invited into a circle that helped you experience wholeness? I can think of many places and activities where I first experienced wholeness as an individual, beginning in childhood, climbing trees and resting in their branches, ice skating at the rink across the street, the solitude of practicing piano or playing flute. But the word circle indicates something beyond an individual. And the question also includes the word invited, calling forth relationship. When were you first invited into a circle that helped you feel whole? Well, maybe the invitation wasn't obvious. Maybe you just showed up and that circle of community over time invited you into deeper and deeper levels of knowing yourself and others and the spirit of life running through everything. I think that's how it happened for me. During childhood, I experienced circles of community that helped me feel whole in children's chapel at church and summer camp on the island. There wasn't a distinct invitation to these circles. For me as a child, it's just where my family went. When I grew older, I also experienced wholeness within the circles of high school theater, community theater, in the small town where I grew up. Those were the only places where I really fit in during adolescence. I learned that it was okay to be myself in those circles of community, where we each had a role in a shared creative endeavor, and where outlandish expressions of creativity were accepted as the norm. A little bit later, the circle of Scottish Highland dancers and bagpipers at college invited me into rewarding discipline, joyful celebration, and an exploration of my heritage, which deepened my sense of my own roots and brought more wholeness. Later on, I was invited to volunteer at a food co-op where my housemates and I were members. My path to wholeness widened into understanding issues of food justice, the influence of multinational agribusiness on the economy and the land, and how our personal food choices affect a much wider circle of community. Soon after that, I was invited to apprentice on an organic farm, and my experience of wholeness went both deeper into my own soul and more effectively out through my hands. What would have happened to me if I had not been invited into those circles or somehow found them? I would not have experienced moments of wholeness in relationship, nor found a path to more. I would not have discovered my true self and been offered a way to practice integrity between the truth within me and the reality outside me. The Gospel of Thomas states, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." I am convinced that people need intentional circles of community in order to bring forth what is within us and grapple with what we discover when we do that, both the beauty and the challenge. Parker Palmer wrote, "My life is not only about my strengths and virtues. It is also about my liabilities and my limits, my trespasses and my shadow." An inevitable, though often ignored, dimension of the quest for wholeness is that we must embrace what we dislike or find shameful about ourselves, as well as what we are confident and proud of. Palmer describes how the process of congruence between the inner and outer life happened for a participant in a circle of trust retreat that he facilitated for about 20 elected and appointed officials from Washington, D.C. Yes, even there. He wrote, "All of them had gone into government animated by an ethic of public service. All were experiencing painful conflicts between their values and politics, and all sought support for the journey toward living divided no more. One participant had worked for a decade in the U.S. Department of Agriculture after farming for 25 years in northeastern Iowa. On his desk at that moment was a proposal related to the preservation of Midwestern topsoil, which is being depleted at a rapid rate by agribusiness practices that value short-term profits over the well-being of the earth. His farmer's heart, he kept saying, knew how the proposal should be handled, but his political instincts warned him that following his heart would lead to serious trouble, not least with his immediate supervisor. On the last morning of our gathering, the man from agriculture, looking bleary-eyed, told us that it had become clear to him during a sleepless night that he needed to return to his office and follow his farmer's heart. After a thoughtful silence in the circle, someone asked him, "How will you deal with your boss, given his opposition to what you intend to do?" "It won't be easy," replied this farmer-turned-bureaucrat, "but during this retreat, I've remembered something important. I don't report to my boss. I report to the land." Palmer says we can look at the example of the man from agriculture as someone resolving to live an undivided life by finding his center in his values. So, the circle in this man's life is whole. It looks like this. There's a clear boundary between the inner truth in this person and his outer reality. Circle. Demonstration. Or Parker Palmer says we can conceptualize this man's integrity as a path between his inner truth and his outer reality. A path we can all choose to travel, right? A path we're probably traveling together, whether we know it or not. So here we have a carefully constructed Mobius strip. If you trace your finger on what looks like the outside of the strip, eventually you come around and your finger goes into what appears, so you can't see my finger as well, right? It's on the inside of the strip. And then if I keep going, it ends up again on the outside. So the two sides of the Mobius strip are continually co-creating each other. Sometimes it looks like you're on the inside of your integrity, and sometimes it looks like you're in the outside reality. And ideally, they're all connected, and that's the path that we can travel toward wholeness. Palmer claims the message of the Mobius strip is clear. Whatever is inside us continuously flows outward to help form or deform the world, and whatever is outside us continuously flows inward to help form or deform our lives. We yearn to be centered, like the circle, but more than that, I think we want congruence between our inner selves and the outer reality. And we get there by traveling an intentional path to wholeness, like tracing a finger around the Mobius strip. It's easy, right? You note I had two samples because I can't trust myself to create a Mobius strip right in front of you. Well, Palmer continues in his book to talk about this example of the man from agriculture. He wrote, "Because this story is true, I cannot give it a fairy tale ending. I do not know if the man from agriculture returned to work and did exactly what he said he would do. His resolve may well have weakened by the time he got back home. And even if he held firm, the topsoil of Midwestern farmlands has yet to be saved. The policy process is too complex to be redirected by just one person's inner truth. But every time we get in touch with the truth source we carry within, there is net moral gain for all concerned. Even if we fail to follow its guidance fully, we are nudged a bit further in that direction. And the next time we are conflicted between inner and outer truth, it becomes harder to forget or deny that we have an inner teacher that wants to lay a claim on our lives. Reflective question number 5 in the Soul Matters materials asks, who taught you that wholeness does not mean perfection? Who helped you with the work of embracing brokenness rather than trying to hide it or fix it? This is an important question to trace along the Mobius strip of our own life story, because accepting our limits, embracing the broken parts of our lives, is also the path to wholeness. We will never be whole if we expect ourselves and each other to be perfect. And the path to wholeness takes a long time to travel. In the season finale of This Is Us television drama last week, don't worry, this is not a spoiler, Kevin said to his young teen niece, Tess, I don't think we figure out who we are all at once. It happens over a long period of time, piece by piece. A couple of years ago, I got close with your dad, and I found a piece of myself. Then I met your aunt, and I found another piece of myself. That's sort of how it works. We go through this life slowly but surely, collecting little pieces of ourselves that we can't live without, until eventually we have enough of them that we feel whole. In The Cure for Sorrow, a book of blessings for times of grief, Jan Richardson writes, you had hardly thought your heart could be claimed, and so willingly, but now the heart that gave itself with such gladness finds itself stunned by its anguish, abandoned and inhabited all at the same time by the absence that has gathered itself to you. It will astonish you how grief comes with such purpose to undo us, to unmake us with tools fashioned so exactly to its terrible art. How with such precision they are fitted for the rending, the tearing, the unstitching, unmooring, unhinging of us. It is hard to see from here how these tools are the same ones that will make us again. This time with an aching slowness, a painful pace so measured we will hardly perceive it when it begins to happen, the joining that comes piece to piece in a pattern that will never be the same, but will leave us inexplicably whole.
Every week, we have an opportunity to practice our values through sharing our resources. Our pledges are at the core of our spiritual practice of generosity. In addition, the church shares half of the non-pledge cash in our offering plate with a community organization. In this way, we commit our resources in line with our belief that this congregation is interdependent with the world beyond these walls. Today, we share the plate with River Revitalization Foundation. May the practice of giving bring us joy. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Please rise in body or spirit for our responsive reading printed in your order of service. This is by Teresa Inez Soto, and I'll begin. Bring your broken alleluia here. Bring the large one that is beyond repair. Bring the small one that's too soft to share. Bring your broken alleluia here. I know that people have told you that they won't be good. Never take yourself together. You'll receive the value of perfection. A lot. Or they forgot. You are the gift. We all bring some broken things, songs and dreams and long-lost hopes. But here and together, we reach within. As a community, we begin again, and from the pieces, we will build something new. There is work that only you can do. We wait for you. Let's sing hymn 18, What Wondrous Love. These closing words are by Bets Wieneke. May we leave this place seeking an uncharted and freely chosen path to wholeness, knowing we have companions along the way. May it be so.